Hi everyone. In the last video we looked at downloading your files from the website for the course and opening up one of those files that has Visual Basic Code in it. In this video we're going to pick up from that point. We're going to go back and open one of those files and see how we can go through the process of compiling that file and actually running it so we can see how the program runs. So let's start going back into Notepad. You'll remember that's where we're going to go to be able to work with our code. So I can go back in here, and because I've used Notepad recently, I can just pick it up off of my Start menu. Or if yours isn't there, remember you go to All Programs and Accessories, and within Accessories you will find Notepad. Now within Notepad, let's go ahead and open one of our files. So we'll go to File and Open, and you'll need to remember where you put your files. The files that I'm doing for assignments, I had already downloaded the files and then I saved one of them into my assignments folder. So I'm going to go to that assignments folder, which was in Documents, and then it's called CIS 115 Assignments. I'm going to open that up. And remember, I'm looking in here and I'm not seeing anything, but that's because of the filter that's set down at the bottom of the screen. So I need to come down here and change so I can see all files. And now I can see my helloworld.vb file. This is the one I'm going to work with for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to open this up. And here's my program. We really didn't talk much about what was in here yesterday in the other video. So if we take a look at this, it's module Hello World, which is basically the name of the program. It has within it one procedure, and our procedure is called main. And then within that procedure, we only have one thing that we're doing. We are going to use a command called WriteLine, and WriteLine is going to write to the console, and it's going to print the text Hello World out to the console. Now right now I can't run this. This is what's called source code. Source code is something that we can read, so it makes sense to us. But this really doesn't make sense to the computer, so I can't run this. The computer doesn't understand it. I have to go through a process where I compile the code. I'm going to take the source code and compile it into Common Intermediate Language, and then from that point I need to make an executable. The Visual Basic Compiler does both of those steps, so it's actually two things that it's doing. Visual Basic Compiler is called VBC, and if you remember back in our first video, we looked at how to set your path variable on your computer. Your path must be set so that you can find that VBC command whenever you go to run it. Okay, to run the VBC command, we're going to go to a command prompt. To get to the command prompt, click on your Start button, and again, All Programs and Accessories, and look for Command Prompt. Now Command Prompt, this is actually what DOS used to look like. So way back before we had Windows, we had DOS, and when DOS, you had what was called the C prompt. And here we have C:\\/ that says that I'm working on my hard drive. I am working in the Users folder, and within the Users folder, I'm working in a folder called KBAT2334. And this is what I use to sign on to this Windows on this computer. So this is going to vary depending on the computer that you're using. What I need to do at this point is move to that folder that actually has my file in it, this Kim Bateman helloworld.vb file. It's a little bit difficult to work within this command prompt because you can't really see what's there. So I'm going to show you a couple commands that you can use. One of them that's really useful is dir. Dir lists out directories, or lists the contents of a directory. And a directory is the same thing as a folder in Windows. So when I type in dir and press enter, it's going to list what is in my KBAT2334 folder that's within Users on the C drive. And you can see within it I have documents, and that's where I've placed my files. I have to change to that directory, which is the cd command. So cd documents, and be sure you spell correctly. If you spell anything incorrectly, it's not going to work. So change directory to documents, And now my path is c:\users kbat2334 documents. Now I'm not to the point where I have my file stored yet. Remember, it was in CIS 115 assignments, which was in documents. If I remember exactly how to spell the name of the folder, I can just do CD and the name. But if I want to check to make sure, I can do dir again. And when I do dir, I have a lot more in this folder, so I'm going to have to look back up here. And I can scroll within this window. I can also resize the window if I want to. But if I look, here's my folder called CIS 115 assignments. So now I want to do a CD to CIS 115 assignments. So I change directory to that folder. So now my path is showing me that I'm in c:\users kbat2334 documents CIS 115 assignments, and this is where my file is located. I can confirm that again by doing dir and pressing enter. And here are the files that I have, and one of them is called kimbatemanhelloworld.vb, and that's the one that we're going to be working with. To compile it, we type in the name of the compiler, VBC, Visual Basic Compiler, space, and then I need to type in the name of the file. It doesn't really care about uppercase and lowercase, so hello world. You do need to put the VB extension on the end, so period VB. Press enter. Now it didn't run it, because what it's supposed to do is print out hello world, right? Well, we're not actually executing this program yet. What we're doing is just compiling it. So by compiling, we're first of all creating that common intermediate language, and then we're creating the executable. So what we've really done at this point is created another file. And you'll see it looks like everything ran okay here. If you had an error, your error would show up in here. But it just came back to the command prompt without any errors, so we're ready to go on and try running this file. So now, if I type in dir, you'll see that I have an additional file. Here's what I started with, kimbatemanhelloworld.vb, but now I have a file called kimbatemanhelloworld.exe. This executable file is what was created by running our previous VBC command. Just a quick thing I do want to show you before I forget about it. If you ever type in the name of a file or type the name of the command and it's not quite right, instead of having to go back and type everything all over again, on your keyboard, if you just press the up arrow key, the up arrow key goes back to the previous command. So see, you'll see here I pressed the up arrow one time, it took me back to the dir command. If I press the up arrow another time, it takes me back to my VBC with the file name. Okay, what I want to do at this point is run the file, so I can just edit this command a little bit. I don't need VBC, I'm not compiling anymore. The file is now an executable, kimbatemanhelloworld.exe. We've created that file. To run it, I can just type the first part of the file, or I can type it with .exe on the end. Either way is going to work. But once I have this in, I can press enter. I ran my executable, and you'll see it says hello world. So we have created some code, our source code. We have compiled it, and we've created the executable, and then we've run the executable. So those are the steps that you need to go through. Let's go back and try editing our program a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my Notepad window. And let's say we wanted to add another line of code. We want to say hello world, and let's say something else like maybe how are you doing today? So we want to add a line of code here. So I'm going to come out to the end of my statement and press enter so that I have room to put it in. And I could go ahead and just type this, but because it's going to be the same command, I'm going to just copy this text. So I'm going to use Control-C on the keyboard, or you can use Edit Copy. And then I'm going to come down to the next line. Oops. And I'm going to paste it in. So paste is Control and the letter V on the keyboard, or you can use Edit and Paste. So System Console right line, and I don't want to say hello world. I want to say how are you? So I now have two commands. I need to save this, and I'm just going to save it over top of the file that I had before. So I'm just going to do File and Save. Then let's go back to our command prompt, and I want to run the program again, right? So here's our program. Let's go ahead and run it. All it says is hello world. Why didn't it say hello world, how are you? Well, if you think about our process, all that I've changed over here is the source code. Our source code is changed, but our executable file is still the same. So how do we update that executable file? Well, remember we have that BBC, that's our compiler. So let me go back through and see if I can find, here it is. I pressed my up arrow key several times and I'm back to VBC, kimbatemanhelloworld.vb. That's the name of our file up here. So let me see if I can compile this. Okay, that looks like it worked okay. No errors. Now I want to go back and I just want to, oops, I don't have it there. And I'm using my down arrow to go back down through the commands. So I just want Kim Bateman Hello World. That's the name of our executable. And again, I could type .exe at the end if I want, but it's not necessary. So now if I run it, it says, hello world, how are you? Because we've gone through that process of compiling and creating the executable. So now our executable matches our source code that we have over here. And that's what we're actually running when we do the executable. Well, I hope this has helped you better understand the whole process of how you can work with source code and writing your code in Notepad and then taking it and turning it into the executable. If you run into any problems along the way, common things that might happen are if you don't have your path set correctly, you're going to get an error because it can't find VBC when you go to compile. Or if you type something wrong as far as the name of the file, it won't be able to find the name of the file that you're working with. So those are common things that might happen. Or, if you actually have something wrong with your code, with your source code, you might get an error related to that. So just try to think through, look at the things and make sure that they're correct. And if you have problems with figuring out what's going on, please always feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you and hope the class is going well for you.